Hey, welcome to the Black and Raw podcast. I'm your host, Tino. I ain't going to repeat that. Here's a podcast that's creating the dialogue and the space for black men to be their most authentic selves. Now, my guest today is Ephraim Garwe, and Ephraim joined us at the Thrive community event, Thrive retreat event a couple of weeks ago, and that's where I met up with him, and he was really interesting to listen to and to hear. And after hearing him, I really wanted to have him on the podcast, so we arranged a time, and now he's on the podcast, baby. But me and Ephraim talk about lots of interesting stuff. We're both social workers, so we get into a little bit about social work and the cultural differences between SA and the UK, and the different dynamics that happen when you're practicing social work in two different cultures. And he really brings a wealth of topical knowledge and interest, and he works with unaccompanied minors, who you hear about, and we maybe also touch on Nigel Farage and reform and sort of what's happening in the cultural zeitgeist. We just tap onto that a little bit, and then we move on to sort of talk about just him as a person and some of his goals and aspirations and the books that he has written about and how he pours himself into those books, and vulnerability and what that means for him, but also wanting to create a legacy that lives beyond him. And he touches on the power of vulnerability and some of the stuff that we talk about quite often on this podcast. So it was really good to have Ephraim on the podcast, and I really hope you guys enjoy the episode. If you do enjoy the episode, please leave a review on Spotify, or if you're watching on YouTube, I'd love to hear what you guys have got to say. So here is my episode with Ephraim Garwe. So Ephraim, welcome to the Black and Raw podcast. It's good to have you on.
Oh, thanks, mate. It's my pleasure to be here with you this afternoon, and looking forward to a great conversation.
Nah, it's bro. And we were both recently at the Thrive event on the weekend, and my Sekuru introduced us all to you, which was good. I guess those that don't know what Thrive is, it's a community sort of for diaspora men in the UK that me, my dad, my uncle, my cousins sort of created, and you were a speaker for our second event. How did you find it? What were your thoughts?
It was an amazing event. I loved it. I loved the different activities that were on the program, but also the interactions, the conversations, the connections. The that happened during that time. It was just amazing. I think after I left, I think there are people that I've connected with who have given me some business, which is quite amazing. So I didn't just come there to speak, but I was there to network, and I left there with business. And I believe that it wasn't just me; it was many other people as well who left the retreat with the business, because it was a great opportunity for people to network. But on the same note, to just be free as men and learn from each other, and just learn that the struggles we are dealing with in the diaspora are not unique to you as an individual man. They are quite common, and you can learn from one man on how they've dealt with those struggles. And then I think many men left the retreat feeling rejuvenated, feeling revived, and feeling that they were not alone. So it was an amazing platform, and I think that the next one, which is going to come, more men are going to be present.
It was such a good weekend. And I think, as you said, like the conversations that were had and the sort of connections that were made as well. And I think that probably, I think a lot of men sort of got some good value out of that. And we had Mr. Garande on the Sunday preaching, bro. My guy was spitting facts for everyone. Like everyone loved him. They're like, keep him talking.
That was amazing. Actually, time felt like a flew. Time went by so quickly, and we wanted more time.
Yeah.
It was just an exciting time.
So I was sort of just like having a bit of browse in terms of on like your LinkedIn and stuff, and I saw that we work in the same profession, or that we've worked in the same profession. And I guess what I wanted to know in terms of a bit about your social work experience, was that mainly in the UK, or was that
Yeah.
also in SA as well, or what was that like?
I obviously did my social work training in South Africa, um, and after that, I then worked in South Africa for 9 years,
Mm,
and I worked in the NGO sector around HIV and AIDS. So we were working with families and children and young people and communities just on prevention and treatment. So my focus was really just around HIV and AIDS, but also I was involved in the development and training of nurses and counselors, and to a certain extent even doctors as well. So I was really part of a team that was focusing on developing people who would then go and offer the services in communities. So
yeah,
I developed a training kind of a
sort of
training
skill.
career as well.
Yeah,
Yeah, yes, skills and yeah. So I became a trainer. I became a chief trainer in the NGO was working for, and it was really beautiful. So my experience in social work was around HIV and AIDS, but also training and development of counselors and other social workers as well. And then, of course, I came to the UK in 2022. I started working in child protection and safeguarding,
that's where
which
I
was a
started as well.
crazy,
It is
yeah,
crazy.
which was a crazy, yeah, it was mad. I was mad, but I was there for a year. I left. Now I'm working in the UASC service, which is
Unaccompanied minors, isn't it?
absolutely yes. So that's
Yes.
where I've been for the past 2 years now.
Nice. I guess like I want to touch on both because one things that are just coming into my mind about being extremely topical in terms of working with unaccompanied minors. Um but your work in South Africa, I imagine that that would have been quite interesting actually in terms of working with an NGO, which I feel like is probably very different than working with a council, and sort of
Yep.
helping those that have got AIDS or HIV and training others. I guess what did you find maybe, I don't know, difficult or maybe challenging in terms of training other professionals as well, but then also trying to engage communities that are struggling with HIV and AIDS?
Um, I think for me, I think training and speaking has always been something that was a big passion of mine. And I think even when I was still in uni, I was always involved in those kind of things. And I think when I left, I was always clear that I had a role to play in speaking and development of other people and training. So I've always had that passion. And when I left uni, I was lucky enough to find environment where I was able to exercise or showcase those skills immediately after uni. And I didn't find it much challenging because one, I was very passionate. Two, I was very I'll say I carry a bit of charisma, so it kind of
Back
helped
yourself,
me.
back yourself.
Yeah, yeah. So I think it kind of helped me to easily fit into the training space. But I guess the challenges were around because I was working in South Africa as a Zimbabwean, and you can imagine you were foreign and you are training all these professionals,
Yeah.
and but then I was young as well. I was young as well. I was just come from uni, and already I'm thrown into this big space. I'm training nurses, I'm training HIV counselors, I'm training at some places I would train doctors who did not have a clue about what HIV was.
Wow,
So
wait, is that even possible? How can doctors not
wow,
know? Like that
wow.
doesn't make
It,
sense.
it doesn't make sense, but um, because these people were not specializing on HIV, so they were not
Mm,
clued up with the I'll say with the updates with all. So I was focused in the HIV field, and so I was always up to date. And
yeah.
as a trainer and somebody who was developing the material, because I was involved in the research, I was involved in the development of the training material, so I was always up to date with the current trends so we would find some doctors who were not up to date with the information, so we would go and give them new updates.
Yeah.
So you will then find that you are in that space. You are a social worker. You're young. You're a foreigner, and you are dealing with all these people. So the challenge, I guess, was always around
Okay.
acceptance,
Yeah.
and so, yeah. But I guess with my sort of approach into that, I think people eventually would end up liking me, and
Would warm up to
things
you,
would.
yeah.
Well, yeah, yeah, yeah. So it wasn't much challenging as social work is in the UK. Social work in the UK is very challenging.
Is a different beast, yeah. And I know that I've like heard about sort of tensions from Zimbabweans to South Africans, South Africans to Zimbabweans. And I think, you know what's sort of funny is it's not really even funny to be honest with you, but it's sort of you think, oh, but we're both African. Like
Yeah,
we're literally neighbors, you know what I mean? And like
yeah,
even then you
yeah,
can see that it's like, no, you're a foreigner coming into my country. And I guess in terms
yeah,
of linking in with that, like working with unaccompanied asylum seekers, like, we've seen in the UK recently that, and I think we've seen all across Europe that there are protests about
yeah, yeah,
unaccompanied minors
yeah.
being
It's
put
been
up in hotels,
yeah.
and
Hmm.
it's
Hmm.
a very tense environment at the
Yeah,
moment.
yeah. It's very tense. It's very tense.
I guess in terms of for you, what do you see in terms of when you are working with these unaccompanied asylum seekers? Like, have they been talking about in terms of what it feels like to be here in the UK when there is all these protests going, when there is sort of this, I don't even know what to really call it. Uh, Hostility. I think hostility would be the word to it in terms of that people
Yeah,
coming into the
yeah,
country and the narratives of they steal our jobs and all of that. Like, I don't want to
yeah,
dismiss people's feelings about it because there
yeah.
probably is a bit too much migration, but migration is also very much needed. Um,
Yeah.
but what are maybe some of the young people saying to you?
Well, I guess because um, I, I can't say a lot because I'm still working in the space, and you don't want to end up saying a lot of things. But
GDPR.
I guess the general, but I guess the general sense and the general feeling is that things are tense.
Mm,
And it's not just about the asylum seekers. It's even around people who are here legally.
mm,
Even myself, as a legal person who is working and contributing to, contributing tax and all of that, you still feel like there are some tensions.
yeah.
You feel this tension even when you walk into a gym, or when you walk into a shop, when you are in a place where you are a minority. People look at you in a different way. So it's not just about these young people who are coming in to seek asylum, but it's just towards everybody who is different. Everybody who looks different is he or she is now seen as somebody who's here to take our jobs or whatever. So I think at the moment it feels like it's beyond people who are coming in to seek asylum, but it's actually a feeling towards the general issue uh, about migrants.
Yeah.
Whether legal or illegal, there's just general tension towards people who are coming from countries, and it's. I think the difference, I guess, from my experience in South Africa is that in South Africa, when you hear people say foreigners, you
Yeah.
immediately know they're referring to a Zimbabwean.
The Zimbabweans, you Zimbabweans, what are you doing here?
So when you hear them saying foreigners, 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 you know that it's a Zimbabwean. It's
Yeah.
not. It's not. It's not. It's not going to include a Chinese. It's not going to include an Englishman. It's not going to
Mm.
include a Russian man. But I can tell you, there's a lot of people from all over the world who are in South Africa illegally. But you always hear this hostility towards Zimbabweans, and I think that was the biggest challenge for me when I was there.
Yeah, no, that's interesting because, yeah, as we were sort of saying before, that they're specifically like sort of targeted Zimbabweans in terms of in the South Africa debate, but then I guess here in the UK, everyone has just been bunched into one,
It's
and
everyone. Yeah, it's
I don't
everyone.
know. I personally think that's probably a failure on our politicians. Nigel Farage, I don't expect him to have nuance, to be honest with you, but Keir Starmer, I expect nuance from him because
Yes.
he could
Yes.
he could easily say, right, okay, we know migration is an issue, but one, we need care workers. We need people that are going to be looking after the white British grandparents that are in care homes, or
Yeah.
the people that need
Yeah.
care to go into your homes. We always say it's the jobs that people don't really want to do because, like, as I'm going to make a generalizing statement, so be warned, but
Yeah.
it's usually the jobs that the white British don't want to do. So it's sort of like, okay, I understand Keir Starmer has a really hard job, and what he probably needs to do is try and make those jobs more attractive to white British
Yeah.
workers, because at the end of
Yeah.
the day,
Yeah.
carers don't get paid a lot either.
No, they
And there's
don't.
not a lot of progression and like career path for them to
Yeah.
follow. So
No.
if you haven't got that and you haven't got that environment, then yeah, of course you need migrants. Yes,
Yeah.
migrants that are coming off the boat, that's a very different issue, but
Yes.
needing to differentiate
Yeah.
um
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
big.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that's a very great point you have raised there. The importance of separating the two issues, because I think at the moment the two issues are just bundled together, and the whole issue of migration is just looked, as one thing. But I think there are two different sets of migration issues we need to look at differently. So the first one is legal, where people are coming in. There has been some issues with that. There has been issues with that. A lot of companies, and they've abused the system. Yes, it's a point to be acknowledged, but at the same time, it's it's ought to be done in a way that people are not punished.
Yeah.
People who are coming in to contribute are not being punished, and I think at the moment there is a sense of punishment towards migrants but these are people who are actually making huge contributions into the economy. These are people who don't have access to public benefits, but they are contributing huge amounts of tax into the economy. So it's very important, um, because what's happening now, all these new laws, new rules, they discourage people from coming. And
Mm,
people have got other options. People will go to other places, but at the end of the day, it's the vulnerable who are going to suffer. It's
yeah.
the old people, it's the children, it's the vulnerable members of our communities who are going to suffer because there's no people who are going to look after those people. So I think it's quite important for the government to look at these two separate issues in a separate way.
Yeah, definitely. Um, I could rail on the government. It used to be that I'd rail on the Conservative government, but now the Labour government is just. I feel like neither one
Yeah,
of them just. Everyone gets a bit of slack. I think I think it is very interesting. And I think you are seeing. I think you are seeing the sort of effect of Nigel Farage and them being
yeah,
able to sort of weaponize it a bit. And I'm definitely seeing it with some of my young people that I work with, because I
hmm
used to be in a child protection team, and it was quite hard, I will say.
yeah,
And now I'm working more with young people, which I really wanted to do anyway. But
okay, yeah,
you are seeing these views spread out sort of through everywhere in society. I
yeah.
guess like in terms of your career here as a social worker, how have you found the change in terms of the difference between SA and the UK?
Um, the differences are quite massive.
Mm,
That's one thing to note. And the pressures are quite different as well. So here in the UK, the pressure is crazy. We're always on a roll.
mm,
Um, but I think these are two different worlds. You know, these are two different worlds, and you will find that social work in the two different places is sort of applied differently as well. So the you could be looking at the same, you know, the some theories of social work, but you then see that the way you apply them
yeah,
is
very
different because
different.
you are in different contexts.
Mm,
Yeah. So, for example, the way I would look at a strengths-based approach in the UK is kind of different from the way I would apply it in South Africa because these are two different contexts.
yeah,
Or the way I would the way I apply the systems approach or theory into the UK is different from the way I would look at it in South Africa. So, for example, when I look at the systems theory in South Africa, I'm looking at the whole community. I'm looking at the entire community, the entire village.
yeah,
You know, it's not just the small family. It's the entire village. And I'm looking at how can this community come and assist this child or these children. So we look beyond the immediate family where we are going to look at the grandmothers, the extended family, the community at large. How can they come in and assist? But here in the UK, you see that because it's a more individualistic environment, you will see that,
definitely. Yeah,
um,
definitely.
yeah, yeah, you then see that it's going to be different because I'm only going to be looking at the immediate family.
Yeah,
And in some cases, it's very rare to find grandmothers. It's very rare to find grandfathers, and even if they are there, their contribution is quite limited. They might be present, but they will probably say, "I don't want to be involved. I don't want to be involved in those kind of things." So yes, it's still social work. It's still the
mm,
theories. It's still the same approaches, same skills. But you then see that because you're working in a different environment, you now need to think of how can I apply this theory, this approach, this system, or this skill in a different way, because you are now working in a different context.
yeah. You are. It's a very different sort of environment. I agree with that point in terms of where you said the UK is a lot more individualistic, and I think you find that people move more as well. So like you might have family that are up in Manchester, or that are like
Hmm.
down in Bournemouth or Brighton, and you're maybe in the West Midlands, and so it's very hard to sort of get that support. I know sort of the council that I work for, that they really sort of want to try and push like family network meetings and getting families together and
Yes.
having sort of
Yeah.
quite a
Yeah.
relational practice, which I think is super amazing. But as you said, it's those practicalities, isn't it? It's who do you have as a family member that you can rely on, whereas maybe
Yeah.
in South Africa or Zimbabwe, your family is very close to you and they're already involved. And I
Yes.
think we come into people's lives sometimes quite reactionary, like something has happened, where is maybe in the
Yeah.
community, someone would notice your child
Yep.
going out a lot more and they would be like, what are
Yes.
you doing? Go back home to your mother, or I'm going to
Yeah.
drag you
Yeah.
back
Yeah.
home to your mother. Like they're a
Yes.
lot more involved as a community. And
Yeah.
I don't know, I don't really have any solutions in terms of how that could be sort of replicated or done in the UK, but I think we do see like outcomes are much better when a whole family approach
Yeah.
is sort of taken.
Yes. Yes. And to add on that, you will also see that the way we were raised in Zimbabwe and so in South, you will see that there is this spirit of Ubuntu, which you call Ubuntu,
Mm,
which is I am because you are, and you are because I so we are because I am, and I am because we are. So there's a sense of oneness within the community. So if I see a child of my neighbor who is misbehaving or drinking or drugs or anything, immediately I get involved.
mm,
Because I'm part of this village. I'm part of this community. I'm part of raising this child. So we always say, your child is not your child alone. Your child belongs to the whole village.
yeah.
So I remember when we were kids, if you were to be seen walking with a girl and you are doing some funny things, adults would come and intervene, even
Mm.
though the way they would intervene in this context of UK is seen as abuse, or because they would beat you up. They would beat you up. They'll beat you up. So it's, but in the end, what it demonstrated, it demonstrated a spirit of oneness. We are one. We are a community. We are a village, and your child is my child, and I'm not gonna sit and watch your child going down the drain. I am going to stand up, and I am going to make a contribution. Whereas here in the UK, you can literally see boys and small girls doing things, and you can't get involved.
Yeah.
You don't ever say you can't you can't. You
Yeah. And
know,
and I
so
think and I don't know in terms of where maybe not necessarily shame, but sort of I think a bit of shame and guilt. I don't know whether in terms of in an individualistic society, does shame and guilt in terms of increase more, because I feel like there are probably some families that are like, I wouldn't want my neighbor to know what's going on with me because that would reflect back on
yeah,
me, and that would make me feel shame, that would make me feel guilt. Whereas maybe, as you said, with sort of the thought and the expression of Ubuntu, it's like, well, we're all in this together. It's all our collective guilt or
yeah,
collective shame, or it's
yes,
not just
yes,
on you. You've got
mm,
us and we've got you, and we know that we can rely on each other.
yes, yes. We are in this together. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So you mentioned in terms of about some of your previous experiences in South Africa in terms of training people, and we've talked about in terms of your willingness to sort of want to see people do better and to support them in that. And I want to know sort of how that interacts with your motivational speaking and motivational interviewing. Well, motivational speaking. I'm not getting all social work terms in my head. um, and sort of sort of how that is all um sort of added in this other aspect of your life.
Have a lot of things that I do, but in the end, they're just one.
Mm,
So I write books as well. You know that, and my books are mainly on motivation because I am of the view that people just need to be reminded of who they are. and all I do in many of my books is just to remind people of who they are and what they carry and what they can do. And in those books, I always tell people that even if I don't get this to stand on a stage, I've already spoken. I've spoken in those books. And I know that I have spoken to thousands and thousands of people through my books. I also know that I have trained thousands and thousands of people through my books, because when people are reading my book, I'm talking to them, I'm speaking to them, I'm training them. And so that's the I would say that's the huge part of my training and motivational speaking, which is books. So when I then get a platform to go and speak, I always use my books as a reference point, and I always go back to those books and just pick up one or two things and use that to either train or speak to people, and so for me, my books are and I will just keep on writing. I've got new books that I'm working on that might come out anytime soon. But I think for me, because I know that because of the job I'm holding now as a social worker, I might not always get the chance to stand on a stage and speak and motivate. But I know that people who get the chance to read my books, I've already done the job. I've done the job already. So I've done the job. So I think for me, that is going to remain an integral part of my training and motivational speaking. I know that soon enough, when I'm able to juggle things around, I will then be able to then move around and maybe get platforms to speak and motivate and train as well. But I think writing books will always be the main anchor to my speaking and training.
Yeah. So I guess in terms of with your books, like what would you say in terms of is maybe one of your proudest moments in terms of writing your books or maybe feedback that you've gotten about one of your books? Like what would you say is one of your proudest moments?
I think my proudest moment was when my first book was featured on a TV program. I was invited to be on a TV program, the SABC in South Africa, which is one of the biggest TV or whatever broadcasting in the whole of Africa, even in the world as well. So my book was featured there, and that alone, it opened big doors for me, because being on TV and you are a new author with your first book, and the book was being hyped a lot on TV, and so when that happened, it opened so many big doors for me, and people were calling from this angle. People were calling. They were interested in the book, but also people were interested in me as a person. So I think that was the biggest moment for me, and it really opened huge doors for me. And then I kept on being invited to further TV interviews and radio interviews, blah blah blah. So things just kept on going, from there. But also just being on TV for the first time, was just a big thing for me, and it was the proudest moment of my career and of my life and of my family as well.
No, that's nice. And yeah, I imagine it is quite nice in terms of to have that. And especially sort of as that being your first book as well, because I've never written a book, but I don't know if I'd write a book. I think I feel like if you're trying to do something, like everyone has to write a book at some point, right?
You should.
But I feel like, yeah, as that first one, because you're probably feeling a bit nervous. It's like, right, I've never done this before, and I'm going to put this out, and I don't know what the reception is going to be, but then being able to have that moment in terms of being on TV and the opportunities that then brings you as well. Congratulations on that.
Yeah.
It's really good to hear, and you can hear
thank you.
how proud you are of it.
and what did to me as well is it actually pushed me further to want to go and write more. So I came out of that interview feeling, oh, okay. So if this book, which I never thought would be big, is now big, it means I can do more. It
Yeah.
means I can do. I went back home and I was energized. I was feeling a bit more inspired. So I was able to actually sit down and say, okay, there's more stuff I could write about. And from there, and I just kept on. I'm sitting at book number 6, and there's a lot that are in the pipeline. And my goal was always before or when I turn 40, I should have written 10.
Okay.
So I only have got 2.5 years before 40.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of work to be done.
There's a lot of work to be good.
There's a lot of work to be done. So yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a very admirable goal to have as well. And I think as well with books, like, and I know my mom has sort of talked about it, but it's like books are timeless, isn't it? Like books will outlive you and outlast you.
Absolutely.
No matter what format they end up staying in. But I do
Yeah.
like listening to audiobooks and maybe like a book that's on a podcast, but like something about a physical book, like I hope we never get rid of physical books. I know there is a book that talks about sort of like what happens if all the books were burned. Can't remember what it's called. I can visualize it now, but I would never want a world where physical books are all just gone, because there's something about it that is timeless, and that
Yeah.
knowledge is
Yes.
timeless as well.
Yes. I think we will never get rid of books. I think technology is trying its best, but I think there's something about a physical book that you cannot take away.
Mm,
So I think the physical books will live a long time. If they're going to go away at some point, it's gonna take time. But if you look at it, um, we have books from the 1800s. We have
yeah,
books from the early 90s, and those books are still there today. And that's the power of a book. You can never it never gets old. It doesn't get rotten. It's always there, and the information which is in that book will leave edges and edges and edges. So for me, I'm always inspired by that vision of saying, look, these things are going to live way before I'm years after I'm gone.
yeah,
My children will always have a reference point. My grandchildren will always have a reference point. And I think for me, that comes from a point where I I don't know much about my father. So he died when I was young. He died when I was 6, and I never got to know him and know who he was and get to interact with him. And I
mm,
and I always felt like if he had written a book about his life,
yeah,
about his family, about his background, about where he comes from, his culture, his totem, and all of that. If he had put that in writing, I wouldn't be having a problem today.
yeah,
I would be connected to him because I know where he's from. I know the kind of man who he was. So for me, that became a push to say I don't want my children to be in the same position I was. I want them to know who their father was. I want my grandchildren to know who their grandfather was. And I
yeah.
also want them to draw lessons from the life that I lived.
No, that's beautiful. And as you said, sort of wanting to know more about your father has sort of made you to sort of want to have that legacy for you, and your children as well, which I think, yeah,
Yeah.
is absolutely beautiful. How do you, um, I guess because whenever you're writing anything or whenever you're creating something, you're pouring a bit of yourself into it. You're pouring your experience, you're pouring your knowledge, you're pouring your
Yeah.
vulnerabilities. Like
Yes.
how do you find sort of that process of putting in your experiences into a book that's trying to motivate people? As you're saying, like um the motivational sort of part of it all is wanting them to find who they are and to know who they are and to be able to rely on
Yeah.
that. So how do you use your experiences of life to sort of pour into the books?
Yeah, that's a great question, Tino. And I think when you want to use your life to inspire others, you have to be vulnerable. You can't be inspirational if you don't connect with people. And you connect with people when you're vulnerable.
Mm,
You connect with people when you are open enough to share them your weak moments and and the best parts of your life. And I've learned over the years of writing that um, I always receive good ratings on my books because I'm able to connect with people.
yeah.
And I connect with them because my story is not new, and my story is not unique. And when people feel that, oh, I this guy has gone through the same things I've been through, that's when you connect,
Yeah.
and that's when you are going to have an impact. So I think for me, motivation is not about all these big words and trying to be uh, a bit superficial, but I think it's really about being able to connect with people. When you connect with people, that's when you are going to impact on their lives because they are able to feel, oh, okay, this guy is saying something that I've been through,
Yeah.
you know. And then if he was able to overcome these challenges, then it means I can also overcome the same. So it's really about the ability to connect. And I think for me, I've always been clear from day one I started writing that I want to connect. I want to connect with people. And the only way for me to do that is being vulnerable, being open, being truthful, being truthful, being honest. Because it's easy to lie in a book.
Yeah.
It's easy to say things which never happened. It's easy to say things which never existed.
We're
But
in the age of
uh,
misinformation.
exactly, in the age of AI, in the age of so we you have to be truthful, honest, and be able to use your honesty to connect. And when you're being truthful, that is when you're going to connect with people.
Yeah, definitely. And I feel like that is a point in terms of that any man sort of that's listening to this is that that can be applied to sort of anything in your life, isn't it? That being vulnerable allows you to connect, isn't it?
Yeah,
Showing that vulnerability is not a weakness, it is a strength because it
it is a
shows
strength.
people who you are, right? And
Yeah,
those are some of the stuff that we were talking about at the Thrive community
exactly.
event as well. So bringing it all back, bringing it all back.
Exactly, exactly. And if we go back to the Thrive retreat, if you look at the level of openness that the men who were there were able to reach to, and you can then see that we were able to connect because we were vulnerable.
Mm,
We were able to open up and be honest and be truthful. And the moment people were doing that, people were connected. People were one, and it just felt like we were one family. We were just, but for a man to be able to do that, it's not always easy for a man to be
no.
vulnerable. So I think the takeaway for me from all of that was it's not a weakness to cry for help. It's not a weakness to open up. It's not a weakness to share your struggles. It's actually it takes boldness, it takes courage because people are going to judge you. People are going to talk about it. People are going to say all sorts of things. So it takes courage, it takes boldness to say, guys, this is what I've been through.
Yeah.
This is what I faced. This is what I'm facing right now. These are the demons I'm dealing with right now. How can I overcome them? Who is available to assist me? Who is there for me to help me to cross to the other side? So that is strength.
Yeah.
It's a huge strength for a man to do that. And I think you and your whole team of Thrive, you have done a great job to create a platform where people are feeling safe, people are feeling comfortable to to be able to open up. And I think it's going to go a long way to impact on men who are dealing with a lot of stuff.
Yeah, and to be fair, I remember when we were planning for the Thrive event that um my dad was like he had put into the group. I think it was either he put it into the group or when we had a Zoom and we're preparing for it. But he was like, guys, like we really want the men to be vulnerable, not necessarily from like the minute go, but we were like,
Yeah.
we need to be, and he said to us, we need to be vulnerable ourselves to then
Yes.
allow for the men to start to be vulnerable. And I think by the
Yeah.
sounds of it, like obviously I can say we achieved that, but but you were
I think
there, like
yeah, I think
so.
you did. I think you did achieve that. Yeah.
So yeah, that was I think yeah, that was it was a really good it was a really good setting, it was a really good environment. And the House of Bread is also a really great location as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um
Amazing.
because the signal's rubbish. So
The signal
we're
is
forced
rubbish.
to connect. We're forced to be there with each other. And I know we did it the first year, we did the bonfire,
Yeah.
and the bonfire was just yeah, we did it the first year and we've done it the second year. Both times, just very vulnerable. People just asking questions. Like,
Yeah.
and the second time we did it, we did an anonymous poll as well. So, and like we just said, right, we're gonna have a bonfire. Put your questions in all the weekend. We'll do it on
Yeah.
Saturday. And I think that also, like, there was just so many questions and so many things which just rolled on, and conversations about relationships,
Yeah.
about addiction, about family, about
Yeah.
identity.
Yes.
It all just allowed that environment to do. But I think what we need to do next year is have a bigger fire.
We need a bigger fire
We
next year.
need a
We need a
bigger
bigger
fire
fire.
next year. Yeah.
Definitely, definitely. I think it got a little cold, so
Yeah, it did.
we definitely required a bigger fire. Yeah, but for me, I think you learn from one experience to the next, and you always grow from there. And you guys have done amazingly well. And from the second one that you've done this year, I believe that more men are going to be to be interested because when I came back and I was posting pictures, a lot of men were asking, where was this? Where was
Where did
this?
you go? Yes.
Yeah, and many of them were saying, please don't leave us next year. I was like, definitely, we will be there. But one point I wanted to highlight from the bonfire was that the questions began as anonymous,
Mm,
but in the end, people were open enough to say, "Oh, I'm actually the one who wrote that question."
yeah, yeah,
And to me, that tells you the level of feeling safe in the group. It send a message that all these men are feeling safe. They are feeling that, oh, okay, I can actually say, oh, I'm the one who brought that question up. Yeah, and it really helped everybody who was there to actually say, oh, okay, if he is dealing with this problem, and because many of the problems which were shared, I can tell you that most men would relate.
yeah,
So it's better when the question has got a face to it, and then you're able to relate. So I think it was amazing that men were able to open up and say, "Oh, it's actually me. I'm dealing with this issue. You guys help me."
yeah.
So yeah, it was amazing.
Definitely. And I think there were so many things that people shared that, like, when you heard it, it was just like heartbreaking. And you're like, damn, like, the fact that you gone through that, like, and I think everybody
Yeah,
shared something similar, like, about that, about themselves. And you were just there, like, oh, like, that's rough. Like, and to think that's then what you've been holding in this whole time. That's what's been weighing heavy on you. Like,
yeah,
and I think just the conversations then afterwards were a bit like, oh, what would you do if I was in your situation, or like what would you advise, or like,
yeah.
and we had a therapist also that was there, and
Yes,
we kept going
yes,
to him. We kept being
yes.
like, I think this guy needs some therapy from you. Like, I think this guy also as well. So, and he was normalizing that as well, being like,
Yes,
honestly, guys, we do need to talk. And therapy is not something that is just reserved for white women. Like, it's
yeah,
not something that men can't do, but really that men
yeah.
should do.
Yeah, and that's a That's a very important point to note, that um, I think as African men, as African men who are now living in Europe, in the diaspora, um, because we as Africans, we had our own way of counseling. We had our own way of getting support. If you go back into tradition, where men would gather, like what we did at the bonfire, where uncles and dads would gather, or around the fire, and they would offer advice and counsel to young men. So that was our way of counseling and building young men into fathers. But because we are now living in the diaspora where we don't have these things, we don't have uncles who are there to give us our advice. We don't have fathers who are there to sit with us around the fire and give us advice. So what you find is that many men are dying inside. Many men are struggling with a lot of issues. Issues of identity, issues of sexuality, issues of mental health, emotional health, and they are struggling, and they have got nowhere to go and express those feelings. And therapy has got to be normalized. And I thought the presence of Tafaz were there was quite amazing, because he kept on reminding everybody that, guys, it's okay for men to come to therapy, but I think as African men, we are not there yet.
Yeah.
We need to push each other to arrive at a place where um, it's okay to cry. It's okay to say, guys, I'm struggling.
Yeah.
It's okay to say, guys, I'm overwhelmed. It's okay to say, guys, I'm feeling like I'm losing control. Can you help me? And because we grew up being told a man has got to be strong, a man has got to be macho man. This is the culture we need to break and begin to even tell our children, our small boys, and say to them, it's okay to come to me and say, I'm struggling,
Yeah.
or I'm struggling with pornography. I'm struggling with my identity, or I'm struggling with my sexuality. I'm not sure. We ought to normalize that, and encouraging our young African boys to be able to do that. And I think because we're living in a diaspora, we don't have these avenues,
Yeah.
and this is why I'm going to praise you guys over and over again, Thrive, to say you have created this platform, which is now a platform of counsel, a platform of advice, which is now so it's like we are going back to the old tradition
Yeah.
where uncles and grandfathers would sit with young men and they would give them advice. And I think we need that as African men in the diaspora.
Definitely, definitely. So Ephraim, I've loved everything that we've discussed. And I just sort of want to ask you a final question. And is say if there was a young black boy that was listening to this conversation, what is something that you could tell them, that you could give them, that you could share with them, that would help them with an understanding of themselves?
Yeah, I think it's important to know who you are as a person, as a young man, as a young African boy. It's important to know where you come from. I always talk about identity as not one specific thing. Identity is quite a multifaceted thing. And it's okay to carry different identities or many identities, and I think I'm one of those persons who carry many identities, and it's okay. So the important thing first is to know who you are, and be comfortable with who you are,
Yeah.
and be okay with who you are as a black boy, as an African young man. And I think this is the struggle of many young African men. They are not okay with who they are in their African skin, in their African accent, in their African way of doing things, and they get caught up in wanting to be who they are not. By so doing, they are dragged into drugs and alcohol. And I just want to say to young African men, it's important for you to be happy with who you are, be happy with where you come from, and on your identity, on it with pride, with joy and confidence. So for me, it's okay to want to fit in. It's okay to
Yeah.
want to look like others, but it's important for you to always know who you are. But because I am a Christian as well, and I'm proud to say that at any platform, I think it's also important for you to know who you are in God.
Mm.
Yeah, who are you in God? The kind of promises God has made for you as a person, as a human being, and being able to embrace that, knowing that you can do all things through Christ who strengthens you. You can achieve anything you want. It doesn't matter where you come from, where you're born, who your parents were. You can be anything you want to become. And I think this place where we are, it gives you that freedom to be anything who you are, not in a bad way, but in a good and positive way. So my final words to young African man, is that you can be anything who you want to be. God has given you that power, and um, you are gifted in many ways, and you need to embrace your gifts and your talents and just run and pursue your purpose and be the best version of yourself.
Bro. No, that's amazing, Ephraim, and I really thank you for coming on to the podcast. If you can share, plug yourself, my friend. Where can people find you? Where can people buy your books? I will have them all in the show notes as well, but I want you just to
Yeah.
say it loud and proud.
Yeah, so all my 6 books. So my first book is well, all my 6 books. They're there on Amazon. You can just type Ephraim Garwe on Amazon. Ephraim Garwe books on Amazon. All of the books will come out. You will be able to see all the work I've written. Um, so on Facebook, you can find me as Ephraim Garwe. I'm actually Ephraim Garwe on all socials. So if you type Ephraim Garwe, you will not find any other Ephraim Garwe except this one.
Except this.
So, so on Facebook, on X, on YouTube, on LinkedIn, I'm Ephraim Garwe, and yeah.
Bro. So no, Ephraim, thank you for joining me. And I hope you have a good day.
Man, it's been a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you so much for having me on your podcast.
So, thank you for listening to that episode of the Black and Raw podcast. We're back, baby. I think this is episode like 97. So, we've only got a few into the 100th episode, and I can't wait for you guys to watch that 100th episode. It's going to be a banger. So, I really appreciate you guys watching and listening to this podcast. If you want to find out more about Ephraim, I'm going to put all his details into the show notes so you can go and have a look there. I really appreciate you guys for watching, for listening, for sharing. Talk to someone about this episode. What did you think? If there was anything you took from it, let them know. Let me know at Tino Talk 25. Anyway, I'm about to go. I don't know what I'm doing. Thanks for listening, guys. Chat soon.